second. We are live. We
Okay.
are live.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ruth, and I'm here today to show you how to get started with Gelli Plate printing. Super fun way to play with paint and paper and to just have a good time. So we're going to start off by doing a two-part print, which means we're going to use two colors of paint and we're going to use some texture tools. So to get started, we're going to put a thin coat of paint on the Gelli Plate. So we're going to start with always a small amount of paint, about a dime size blob of paint on your Gelli Plate, and we're going to spread it out. We're going to use a brayer to spread it out and coat the entire plate with ink. And you start out by just kind of spreading it out as best you can. And then once you have the plate pretty much covered, you want to go over it super lightly. I'm just using no pressure at all. I'm just letting the brayer roll over the paint just to kind of get a nice, smooth, even surface. And then I'm using a little roll-off paper to the side where I clean my brayer, and then I'm laying my brayer face up in between using it so that it doesn't get damaged. And I'm using some lightweight cardstock, and I'm going to push it down into the paint, give it a good rub. You can either use the brayer if you prefer to do that, or you can just use your hands. And the idea is to transfer that paint onto the paper. And that's going to be the first part of our print.
Is that
And there we are. Yes, we are using acrylic paint. Right now, this paint that I just spread out is called Liquitex Basics Acrylic. Any acrylic paint will work. So whatever you have. I have some of these old paints that I got at a thrift store years ago. There are the jars of craft paint that you buy for 50 cents in Walmart. They all work on an acrylic, on a Gelli Plate. What you will find is the more you play with Gelli Plate printing, you want more paints and you want more colors. And so the Liquitex Basics are a really good place to start. They actually sell a really nice assortment of small tubes. And then the other one I use is this Master Touch. I believe that's the brand for Hobby Lobby. So that's their brand of acrylic paint in tubes and comes in tons of colors. So yeah, we're using just acrylic paint. But the answer in terms of Gelli Plate printing in general is any acrylic paint will work. So that's my base. It's just kind of a gold color. So we're just going to set that off. And now we are going to put a second color on the plate. And this time we're going to add texture. And then we're going to pull up this paint onto the first paper. So I'm going to put a little bit of my dark purple paint just because I think that'll give us a nice contrast. And there's no cleaning of the brayer or the plate in between. We're just going to spread it out. You might have seen that I rubbed off my roller on my side paper. That's called a roll-off paper. And what I like to do is make little checkerboards on my paper because I find roll-off papers a lot of fun to use in junk journaling or other projects. So I put a little thought into my roll-off paper. But for example, this is an example of a roll-off paper that I did recently, and just the colors I was using that day. And here's another one. But yeah, so with a little bit of thought, you can make your roll-off papers fun and interesting to use. But yeah, I always want to wipe off the extra paint and then put my brayer face up so that I don't damage the roller. Okay, so now that I have this thin coat of purple paint, I'm going to use different texture tools, which can be anything. This is a crystal, like ashtray, I guess. It has a cute flower pattern. So I'm just going to push that down into the paint. You could use stencils, you can use rubber stamps, you can use, this is a little Lego block. I'm going to use that, put that one down, and I'm just kind of playing around today. I don't really have any particular rhyme or reason. I just kind of showing you that my point is to pull off some of that paint because I want my gold to show through. This is a little handmade stamp I made yesterday with some hot glue. I just drizzled hot glue onto a piece of cardboard, and we're going to use that over here and just see what that does. Oh, that's pretty cool. I'm going to do that again over here. Yes, I did several of those, so so we have those to play with as well. Let's see. Here's a what else? Oh, you know what, I'm going to use this.
That you use for the circles, that's from a tape dispenser?
Yes, yes. This is the inside of a of a tape dispenser. We'll put a few more circles on for fun. Okay, well, I'm going to go with that since for this purpose, we really just want to show you what happens. And then I'm going to put my my gold paper back onto it and give it a good rub. And then we're going to see what we got. And there's what we have.
That's great.
So that's our first this is called a two-part print. So we put just a flat coat of paint on the paper first, then we added a second color to the plate, and then we added our texture tools, and that basically pulled off some of the paint. So every place I applied the texture tool is where the gold paint is showing through.
And the
Okay.
gold paint dries pretty quickly.
Yeah, acrylic paint dries very quickly, yes. And you'll see there's still some paint residue on my plate. That is super great to leave there because then that little scrap of purple there and there's little faint images from this print are going to show up on my next plate, which is a lot of fun. So what I will encourage you to do today is keep going and just at some point you might think your plate is too dirty and you're upset about it and you really want to start out with a blank slate. And what you do in that case is you put a good coat of paint over everything that's on your plate, put a paper down and let it completely dry, which means wait maybe 10 minutes until the paint is completely dry, then peel it off and absolutely everything on the plate will peel off onto the paper. And you might have something nice or you might have something weird, but that's the way to clean it. You don't really ever need to wash it or do anything else with it. And the same thing with the tools. I don't ever wash these tools. So this piece of Lego has been around a while and I have larger sheets of it too. It's a big sheet I bought actually at the Dollar Tree years ago. But I don't ever wash it because it's just easier that way. And yeah, here's embossing folders that I no longer like and I use them for pulling up textures. This is a piece of cardboard that has a neat texture to it. Pretty much any kind of texture. This is a little handmade roller I made with just some lace that came on a spool, and I just put it on one of these, the lint roller thing, and so you can make a texture tool with that. Any kind of shapes. This is a cool one. I made a lot of cute flowers with this one. This is the top of a deodorant container, and it has that nice oval, so that makes a cute flower. This is the old foam stamps. We probably have some of those in our stash from way back when. They work really well. Pretty much anything that has a texture to it can be used to pull up. This is a fun one that I made myself. It's just a piece of aluminum foil crinkled up and then wrapped around a piece of cardboard. And you can see it has a lot of paint on it, but it's an interesting texture to pull up. So I'm going to use a few more of these tools for my next pull. So actually I'm going to leave these handy so that I can use them. So I'm just not going to worry about that little bit of purple there, but I'm going to try to be mindful about what color I put down next. I'm going to put this bright blue down next. You want to try to avoid making mud. So think about your colors. Purple and blue play nicely together. They're next to each other on the color wheel. So if you go across the color wheel to purple and orange, you're going to make brown. So, you just want to be a little bit thoughtful about the colors that you choose. But I'm putting a pretty decent coat of blue on here. And then I'm going to use my roll-off sheet and okay, I think I had a little bit extra paint on that one. Okay, and we're just going to go ahead and start over. So I'm going to just make a blank sheet of blue paint that we're going to play with later. And it'll probably have a little bit of that purple on it. Yeah, hopefully, yes. We hope it'll still be there. And okay, so I had way too much paint on that one. So I've got a nice sheet of blue here, but I'm just going to set that to the side and I'm going to do something. I'm going to work on that later. But since I have all this nice blue paint still on my plate, I'm going to go ahead and put some texture into this. So we're going to try that. We'll make a little flower over here because I promised a flower. So I'll just kind of stamp those little ovals over there. We'll make a little center of our flower.
Yeah.
And then we're going to put some of that foil down just to kind of see what that looks like, because why not? And then let's see, maybe for something small, I'll do just some small little circles to fill in some of these blank spots. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, and I'm working kind of quickly to dry too much. And we're going to go ahead and pull that just to see what we get, because that might be some interesting stuff. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So you can see the different textures. This was the foil, and this was that stamp. And this was the ovals from the deodorant, and then these were just the little tiny circles that were the top of a little mouthwash bottle. So that's print number 2.
Wow.
So now we're going to go back and do, and I still have some blue and left on here. So we're going to go back to this piece of solid blue, and we're going to see what we can add to that. So I'm going to look for, I'm going to go with black actually. So I'm going to grab my black. Okay, Payne's Gray. That's a dark neutral blackish color. And you can use clear gesso to pull up your print. Yes, if you already have a lot of colors down there that you love and you don't want to add any more colors, then yes. And I do have a tube of gesso with me today if anyone wants to try that. But the answer is yes. Yes, clear is a color that we can use as a clear medium, a gel medium like clear gesso or clear matte medium can be used to pull up whatever you have on your. All right, so this is Payne's Gray, which is just a kind of a neutral gray color, has a little bit of purple in it, but so we'll start with that. And then let's see what I want to pull out. I'm going to try this this kind of crazy ripply design, and I'm going to actually put that down twice. Yeah. And actually, I'm going to play with this embossing folder a little bit too. I'm going to use this side of it. I'm going to put that down there. Okay, that's cool. And I'm going to add a little more of that over here. And it works out best if you don't overthink it and just kind of go with whatever you feel like doing.
Embossing folder on a white.
Uh-huh.
How that comes out.
Uh-huh. I'm going to throw that down. This is a shower ring from a shower curtain. Yeah, pretty much anything, you'll find stuff. Like I have whole buckets of stuff here that's just things that you find around your house that are just fun to play with. I'm going to try to pull off a tiny bit more on this one just because I want to have, let's see, I'll go back to my circle. I have a thing with these circles. I just tend to enjoy them. I'll stick a few there too, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Put one in the middle. And okay, we'll stop with the circles. And okay, I think I'm going to pull it now and see what we've got. So I'm going to lay my light blue paint down into that and give it a good push. Now we're using cardstock today. I have all different kinds of papers that you can play with. I like to print on book pages. I like to print on tissue paper. I have some medical exam paper, which is another thin paper. And when we get into stencils, I can show you some good ideas with the thinner papers. But for starting out, for your first couple of prints, the cardstock is the easier way to go because it's just an easier way to get a cool print. See, there's a good one right there. Yeah. It's kind of denim-y with the blue and the black on top of it. So yeah. I was going to flip through my book. If I have a book, a junk journal that I made, a board book out of my old Gelli Plate prints. So I thought I would just flip through one of those just to show you kind of some ideas of what I did with my prints. So this is an example of a page. This was a rainbow book. So so this is actually background paper is roll-off papers, and that was an actual Gelli Plate print. This was a Gelli Plate print, and here there's that flower. And this again was done with the roll-off papers, but this was a Gelli Plate print. So, and this was a roll-off papers too. And these butterflies were all cut out of old Gelli Plate prints. This is magazine transfer. That's a little bit more of an advanced technique, which we might have time to get into today. And yeah, so that's just an altered board book that I made out of my old Gelli Plates. Thank you. And then this was a fun one too. I did these with a pocket of a pair of jeans, and I did it in all different colors. And that was a lot of fun. And I just kept making prints in different color combinations using the pocket. And so what I was doing is I was basically rolling out the color and stamping it with the jeans and pulling it up, and then the impression was left in there, and then put another color on it and pulled it up. All right, I'm going to let this dry another minute because this is what I have that's left on here on the plate, and it is pretty cool. So I'm going to add another layer to it and see if I can do something like in a second layer that has additional textures. So I'm going to add the hot pink to that. And that should be pretty dry by now because it wasn't very much paint that was left on there. And I'm going to roll that out kind of thin. And this time I'm going to do it onto the book page. But I'm going to do one more layer of textures just to kind of play here. I'm going to try my little homemade roller that I made with this lace. Roll that through and see what that does. Doesn't look like it does a lot, but it probably is adding a little bit of texture. Yeah, actually I think it is. It is adding a little bit of texture to it. So we're gonna just go with that. And I'm gonna get sorry for my reach. I'm gonna get a sheet of book page and I'm gonna lay that down, and then I'm gonna use a piece of paper on top just so I can really push into it and see what that looks like when we pull it up. Yeah, there we go. So it looks mostly like pink on top of book page. We don't really have a whole lot, and I think it's because the background paper is a little too busy. There is some stuff in there, but it's really hard to see. So we're just going to set that aside for now. But I still have some fun things on this plate that I'm liking a lot. So I'm going to keep going with that, and I'm going to add another color to the background. Let's see. I'm wondering what color I want to pull that up. A lighter, brighter pink. Let's see. Maybe. Okay, there we go. I'll try that and see what. But again, about a small dollop of paint. One of the biggest mistakes that beginners make is using too much paint. So, the first time I rolled out the blue on that plate, I definitely had too much paint, and that's why when I pulled it off, there was still a lot of paint left on the plate, and there was a lot of paint on my paper. But a thin coat of paint is really going to be more useful and effective for most things that you're trying to do. So, all right, I am just going to pull this up the way it is and see if I can get all that nice stuff that was under. And I will say too, I can kind of peek at my print because I have my plates right now laying on a piece of plexiglass, and the reason I do that is so I can flip over, like that's what it's going to look like, and that looks pretty cool.
Oh, that's
So yeah, you can get a sneak peek if you put your Gelli plate. This is just clear acrylic plate, and I have that underneath most of my plates, not my round one because I could never find a round piece of acrylic, but that's just on a cutting board. But if you're doing layers, that's a good way to kind of peek at what you're getting. So whether you want to continue with it or give up, it's just paint and paper. So let's see, that didn't really pull very much, and the reason is because it needed to dry more. So I'm going to set this aside. This is still going to be a good background print. So I'm going to save this piece of pink that just has teeny bits of purple in it, and I'm going to use that for something else later on. So I'm just going to set that off. And I'm still liking what I'm seeing on my plate because I have all those interesting things that we had from before. But the answer to this is going to be to put a thicker coat of paint on and let it dry. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to put a darker color on the back, and I'm going to let it dry. And I have my other plate ready to show you, and we'll move on with it with a second. And that's a reason why when you get into Gelli plate printing, you need to have two plates because there's always some dry time involved. And the more layers you put on and the more complicated you get with your designs, the more you're going to want to have two plates so that you can be working on one plate and letting one plate dry. So I actually did a print a few minutes ago that I set aside to dry, and we're going to pull that one off and see what it looks like. But I'm going to try to pull this print off and set it to the side and let it dry. I'm going to just put the paper in it and then let it dry. So I am pretty painty. I have a nice microfiber cloth handy because you do get kind of painty. I used to use a lot of baby wipes, but now I like to just use my little piece of microfiber. And again, you can use your brayer to kind of push down into and this paint isn't going to show because it's on the back of my paper. So, but, oops, sorry about that. That helps you, kind of get the paper into the paint. But now I'm not going to peel this off. I'm just going to set it to the side, and I'm going to bring over the plate that I was working on before. Actually, I can show you a sneak peek at this one. This was I don't even know if I can recite how I did it, but it's ready to pull. But it was the same idea. I had a lot of different things on there, so I wanted to let it let it dry. So that started out as a sheet of blue, as you can see around the edge. It started out as that. And then I did different things with those same tools that I was just showing you before, with the little bowl with the flower and the Lego and that little uh, foam stamp. So that's one that I did earlier with more than 2 layers of paint. So yeah, and colors, it's a fun way to just play with colors, because a lot of times you don't know. And the other issue with paint is that some of my paints are more translucent and some are more opaque. And you can read the labels, or you can just be surprised, which is what I like to do, because there's no right or wrong. It's just different paints will behave differently depending on where they are in the layering, and so it's just something that you can learn more about. There is a ton of great Gelli Plate printing tutorials on Facebook, on YouTube rather, on YouTube. If you put in Gelli Plate print, and you will see tons and tons of content, and they're really fun to watch. There's some very talented people doing a lot of fun things. Okay, the last thing I wanted to show you is how to use a stencil. Let me grab one of my stencils over here. Two different things. I'll do a stencil, and this is a piece of a bath mat. So a plastic bath mat like you buy at the Dollar Tree, and just had some interesting shapes. And I've used other pieces of it, but I'll pull that over to just show you what it can do. And then this is just a regular stencil. Again, I don't clean my stencils, so it's possible that some of the other colors from other days might show up, and that's okay with me. So you do you. Do what makes you happy. I'm going to start with I'm actually going to start with white, because I haven't done anything with white yet, and white can be a lot of fun. Of course, this is my tube of white that's practically empty. Let's see if we can get some more of that. There we go. Okay. This is called titanium white. A really white. And again, you see I didn't clean my brayer, and there's nothing getting in that white paint, because whatever's on there is dry. Now, eventually, I do clean my brayers like a couple times a year, and what you do is you soak them in Murphy's oil soap and water overnight, and then you can just peel off any paint that's accumulated on them. You can just peel it off in sheets. And so I do that periodically, because after a while they will start to get a little bit of junk around the edges and stuff that can interfere with your brayering fun. So you can clean them, but you don't have to. All right, I'm going to start with this just because I'm curious what this will look like. So I'm going to lay that down, and I'm going to use just a piece of paper. Also paper, we're using printer paper for the roll-offs, and you can do prints onto printer paper too. And what I'm going to do is to kind of push it in, and I'm also going to use it to kind of pull off the extra white paint. I'm going to push into it. So basically I'm pulling off any excess paint that's not under that piece of stuff, and pull that off. There we go, and then we'll pull it off here. So that's an interesting little kind of mess, but it might be interesting. So we're going to just keep going with it and see what happens. So then the next thing I'm going to do, I don't have very much on this side, is I'm going to lay my stencil down. And this time, let's see, I'm going to just do it down towards the bottom. I'm going to do it at the top, actually. I'm going to lay the stencil down up there. Okay, and this time I'm going to put paint through the holes in the stencil. So I'm just going to let the paint go through the holes like this, and just kind of work around, mainly in those areas where I don't have anything showing up yet. And we'll do a little bit more down here. Okay, so now you can see I have some blue going on the sides, and I have some of that white stuff going on over here. I'm going to put a little bit more of the blue up in that corner. All right, and maybe a little bit down in this corner. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to let that go and continue rolling off my brayer. Okay, now I'm just going to give that a minute to kind of set up and dry, and then I'm going to pull the whole thing off. And this one I'm going to try to pull off on the book page, but I'm going to use a lighter color behind it. So actually, maybe I'll try using the gesso just so I can show you what happens with that. Yeah, because I think that'll help with the book page. It'll help the book page words to show through.
Is this the clear gesso?
Do you have it?
No, is that what you're?
That's what I'm looking for.
Oh, okay. Do you want one? You got it.
This is called clear gesso, and gesso is kind of just a transparent medium. Sometimes gesso is white and you use it to coat things. I'm going to give this just another few seconds to dry a little bit more. And let's see, maybe I'll show you a few more of the texture tools that I brought for playing with today. This is just a piece of packaging and it has an interesting texture in it. This is a piece of lace that was from the thrift store, and you can see it has a lot of paint on this side, but lace is very interesting to either stamp off or to push the paint through. So yeah, you can have fun with that. This is a piece of like a burlap fabric, and this makes a really interesting texture. This also has a lot of paint on it. But the thing is, once these things dry, you just keep using them. I mean, all the acrylic paint does is actually put like a little layer. Yeah, stiffens it, exactly. This is rubber stamp, so red rubber works really well for pulling off extra stamp. This is a little piece of wood. It was just a wood cutout. This is a flower, like a artificial flower. You can use real flowers too, but they make interesting designs in your paint. This is my other little ashtray that has a different design on it. I look for glass that's interesting in thrift stores, and you can find some really cool things. Here's a piece of string. That's an interesting idea. You can actually just put your paint down and then just kind of lay your string in around it, and then use a piece of paper to get up the excess, and then you end up with this funky little string design. So really, there's no limit to what you can do. These are combs that you can go through the paint with texture tools, and you can make little patterns with those. There's really, it's as far as your imagination will take you. Yes. So what we're doing today is just learning about how to put paint on a jelly plate and then how to pull it up. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. Okay, now I'm not going to be able to pull this one because this one's going to take a little time to dry, but what I will do is I'll be able to pull it, turn it over and show you what it's going to look like. So I'm going to get a book page. I'm going to get one that has where I like the printing. Book pages all look different. If you do junk journaling, you know about having extra pages that you pull out of books because you need them. So I'm going to give that gesso a good spread. And then the gesso is going to dry clear. So even though it's a little bit milky now, it'll dry clear. So it's not going to affect the print at all. All right, it looks like it might have pulled a little bit of the blue up. But anyway, we're going to put that book page down. And use a background paper. Pull it up. Rub it down so that I get it all the way out to the edges. And you can wear gloves. I never do, but you can. And then I'm going to let this totally dry off camera, but you can kind of get a little peek. That's going to be a very cool piece, I think. Since the book page is still showing through, and it will actually show through even a little bit brighter than that because the gesso is still looking a little milky. But I think the design I have, certainly with the blue, is very cool. I'm not sure how much of a design I have with that white. We'll have to wait and see. But for now, that's the sneak peek because that's going to take probably a good 10 minutes to dry. So you're not going to get to see that now. I can probably post it in the comments later on. But this one I will go ahead and pull. This is the one we had set aside before where we were trying to pull off our design on the original print. And yeah, that one's ready to go. And yeah, that came out pretty cool. Yeah, I like that little, I like everything about that actually. So one idea I wanted to throw at you is that there's really no such thing as a bad jelly plate because even if you got one that you really disliked a lot, you can cut it up and use pieces of it in collage. I've seen amazing things collage artists do with jelly, especially failed jelly plate prints. But I'm just going to go through the ones that we did today just to give you a little review. This is the one I just pulled. This is the one, yeah.
So I know about leaving it dry at the end helps the pattern to really show through. What about in between the layers? How much do you
acrylic paint dries pretty quickly, so
you want it
a few
to dry.
minutes. A little bit. I mean, if you go too quickly and put too many layers down, they're going to turn to mud.
Okay.
But acrylic paint dries fairly quickly, so yeah. But again, that's more of a feel thing that you learn as you go.
Okay.
So that's the blue and white one that we had done. This was the gold, which is your favorite? The blue and white, yeah. I always like when I'm done with a printing session, I like to flip through what I did, and I like different things about different prints.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I
but
like that one too a lot because of all the different things.
yes. But that one I didn't do here, so I'll take that off. Okay, so I think this one is my favorite of these that I did today because I just like the combination of colors and textures and everything that it does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
like
this
that.
is one I could picture making a card front out of, or doing something with. You could cut it and make bookmarks. I haven't explored collage very much, but that's my next thing I'm interested in. But I'll also show you my roll-off papers. So this is the one that I just finished just now, and I think that's a pretty cool paper. And I can definitely picture using that in my junk journal. And then this was the first one that I worked on in the beginning of our session today. So yeah. So like I said, I just tend to do like kind of a little checkerboard pattern because it's fun. But that's it for right now. I'm gonna post a picture of the book page pull in the comments when it's dry. But for now, we're just gonna start playing with the Gelli Plate. So thanks for watching.
Great job.
Great job.
Thank you. I think I need a jelly
Are you sure you want to stop streaming?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know how I did
But this one is my
So
favorite.
here's the deal. How did I do